Hear the whispers from within, balance to restore, ailings to relieve. Feel the nature keeping us, nature healing us, flowers, leaves, and roots within. Hear the mind calming you, soothing you, love and kindness inside out. Let the herbs from middle world heal. Welcome wellness, welcome wellness. It's revealed herbs, middle world herbs.
Hello and welcome to the Middle World Herbs Natural Wellbeing Series, where we talk about restoring and maintaining your health in safe and natural ways while incorporating both the physical and the emotional side of healing. We go live once a week on Fridays at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and each week we have a different episode that we talk about. So every week we cover something different. This is going to be a really fun one. In fact, it is World Health Week, so we are dedicating everything to that, and we're focusing on energy and vitality. So energy and vitality is our theme, and we have our very special guest, Dr. Jacquie Leone. She is with us today. And Jacquie, let's just kind of talk about first your background, and then I'll ask you a whole bunch of questions.
So I am a naturopathic physician. Prior to med school, I got my bachelor's degree in psychology. I was absolutely fascinated with how the mind works and how household and child I'm the middle, right? So the peacekeeper. So
Me
figuring
too.
out, that's awesome. So you get it, right? So
100%. Middle child syndrome is so real.
It is, and you want to figure everyone out so you can like keep everyone balanced and happy and okay and conflict resolution. And so I was just so fascinated with it. And yeah, that was my first, jump into the pool of wellness. Started with mental wellness, mental health. So, and just psychology in general, which led into medical school, which led into holistic nutrition specifically, just because I love functional medicine and using nutrition and food as medicine. I think it's really powerful. So that's just a little bit about me and what I do. And I'm excited to talk today. We have so many cool things. So
Yes, so many cool things. And part of this week, we're going to highlight that a lot of it is just about like how to make the world a better place too. And every single supplement that is sold, we have a tree planted. So we have partnered with One Tree Planted, and they help with the reforestation. And this could be in areas where there was a forest fire or exploitation. And these trees that are planted also sometimes provide fruit that then goes and helps feed a community, an impoverished community. So just a really cool thing if you're considering buying middle world herb products, that you can also know that you are planting a tree out there. So that is what you get with that. And additional, you're going to get the amazing stuff. So we're going to cover some really fascinating topics. We have mental acuity, nootropics, mechanisms of energy production in our body, and the most recent research around human memory, focus, and regenerative properties of sleep. So I have 3 supplements I'm going to introduce you to that are going to really help you live your life to the fullest. And I don't think I introduced myself yet. So I'm Deanne. I am your host today, and it's good to meet you guys. Sorry, my teleprompter is like super slow, so I'm just trying to catch it up. All right, so we're talking about energy and vitality. So if you are feeling like tired, sluggish, unfocused, my question for you, Dr. Jacquie, is do you often see patients coming in feeling that way?
Yes, all the time. All the time. I think balance is one of the harder things to accomplish as human beings. I think that we get pulled in a lot of different directions and spread a little thin. And a lot of times we don't have enough energy to accomplish all the things that we think we can in a day. And so we do that consistently over long periods of time. So then we get chronic fatigue, and then that starts to weigh on our nutritional status, how our mind works, how our body functions, and pain and mood destabilization. All this stuff just kind of is interrelated, right? One really causes another, and they just kind of spiral each other. So it's one of the more common things that people will come in for. It's like you can't put your finger on it. It's kind of like this diffuse symptom of like my get up and go just got up and went. And I don't know when it happened. I don't know for how long. I just know that it's been long enough to where it's affecting my quality of life. And whether it starts physical and then it affects the mental, or it starts mental and then it affects the physical, both usually end up being depleted. And then, most medical doctors will either try medications or different things, and then they come to a naturopath and they're like, okay, those initial stages or initial attempts didn't work. So what else is there? What else can we, look to as potentially the answer? So yes, short answer, I see a lot of people like that. I think it's just par for the course, especially in America, unfortunately.
Yes, we're so go, go, go. I'm myself included, totally. Like
Yeah.
this time of day for me is where I start like dragging. So I'm so
Mm-hmm.
excited to learn like how to boost that naturally. So the three supplements that we have our cognitive support, our mushrooms, and our sleep support. And you might be thinking, well, sleep, we're talking about energy, but we'll get into that. So it's all on purpose for what we're showing you today. So how, Dr. Jacquie, what are some of like key components of our health that can help determine like how we can be so vibrant and sharp and energetic?
I think it's a handful of really foundational things. I'm sure a lot of us know off the top. Like, if you had to guess, what would your top 3 or 5 be? Just the
To stay
general.
vibrant?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would definitely say sleep is way up there. And I know we have
Yeah.
the sleep support. So I think that
Rest.
that's such
Yeah.
a huge thing. And then,
Yeah.
I don't know, this might be out there, but I would say like your mental like disposition, like are you positive or not? Because I think people that aren't always looking more optimistic at life don't have that energy or vitality.
Mm-hmm. Mindfulness.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
there's one more. And then the food we eat.
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah. So these are three of the biggest ones, right? So, you're aware enough and kind of around health enough to know like buzzwords around mindfulness and diet or nutrition and things like that. So we kind of, I think by and large, know the broad strokes, but then it's the details we can get overcome with, right? So when we look at food and nutrition, specifically micronutrients, vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients, and those are really what we want to focus on. And that, because those are the drivers of biochemistry, especially in the mind, right? And being able to like make memories, long-term memories, being able to stabilize your mood and eat when you're hungry and all those things. um, Hydration, some people lump that in with food, but believe it or not, most people are dehydrated and our body can't remove toxins from our organs, system, blood, anything without water, really. And so we need to drink water if we're going to remove the bad stuff to make room for the good stuff, and feeling good. You got it with rest and sleep. That's where our body heals, remodels. But believe it or not, movement is super important. Circulation, right? Getting the heart rate up, getting oxygen exchange. Keeping the body flexible, because the lower the movement, the less flexibility in joints, the more likely we are to get injured, break a hip, all those things. You hit it nail on the head, Deanne, with mindfulness, or like positive gratitude outlook, right? A gratitude outlook, aka being mindful, is super important for longevity and to just feel great and energized, right? Attitude is everything. And the last one that actually is shown to improve quality of mental health, access to resources, believe it or not, is supportive community. So friends, family, volunteering, getting to know your neighbors, getting involved as much as you're comfortable with, having those people that you can reach out to. Maybe you're not extroverted and want to go out in the community, but if you have a handful of people that you can rely on when you are feeling certain things that you don't want to be feeling alone, right? Your support system, someone to celebrate the wins and to help cushion the blows. That's really important to vitality and health. Is a sense of connectedness, and we get that through community. So the last one is kind of like a industrialized country thing. Those are all standard, by the way, ways to maintain vitality. If you can work with all of those factors and balance them, create good foundational skills with each of them. This last one is meaningful work. And it is kind of added more Western cultures because we really do value work. But what I think the way I interpret it is that the phrase is meaningful work, but I think it means spending your time doing something that's meaningful to you. Maybe it's not work, or AKA in exchange for money. Maybe it is a passion, a hobby, something that you do because you absolutely love it and you're driven to do it, right? So just meaningful experiences But, the phrase meaningful work is also on that list, and a super important part of overall vitality and health for sure. So yeah.
Yes, totally. Oh, that's such a good list. I love that. And then I was also thinking pets, because I've heard studies that say if you have pets, you sometimes live longer. So, but that's part of
Yeah,
community. It's like having your
it
own little
is. It
community.
is. It's part of community. It's also part of physical touch, which
Hmm.
people releasing oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, all these neurotransmitters that help us feel more connected to something, less segregated or isolated and alone. That's going to create healing, right? That's going to increase appetite. Serotonin is the precursor to melatonin, which helps us sleep. So we rest better, when you have your fur baby. So, it's a very real thing. Pets are a huge part of the community and the family piece for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk about our cognitive support. So that's the first one we're going to really get into. And this is going to help us with like concentration, learning, forming memories, retaining our focus. So this formula has a few things in it. It has 5 milligrams of alpha GPC and 120 milligrams of leaf extract from a small plant with these really beautiful white flowers called Bacopa monnieri. And it also has herbal extracts from ginkgo biloba, St. John's wort, and a couple more things in there too. So each bottle, you're going to get 60 capsules, and the dosage is just 1 capsule a day. It's $24.99 on Amazon, but during our lives, we always give you 20% off. So you can get this for only $19.99. So definitely order that now. So Dr. Jacquie, where does all the excitement around alpha GPC come from?
So, pardon me, alpha GPC it's been studied recently a lot, actually, in relationship to Alzheimer's disease, dementia, stroke. So issues that are affecting the brain, primarily the neuron or myelin sheath aspect, which is what dementia and Alzheimer's is. So just like, you have a charging cord that has to be insulated, because if the wires were exposed, it wouldn't be as fast or efficient or strong. So we have this insulation of protection, and it makes things transmit faster, right? More efficiently. So that's what myelin is in the brain. And it's wrapped just like this around every little axon tail of a neuron. And neurons connect to each other like a big game of telephone, and they just pass each other the information. So as good as your insulation is as strong as that connection is. Okay. And the cool part about alpha GPC is when they studied it, that actually has been shown to protect that attribute, right, of degradation. So it protects the neurons in that sense, preventing Alzheimer's and dementia. It increases acetylcholine, which is pretty cool. Acetylcholine is a long, fancy biochemical word for just memory. It's a memory neurotransmitter or substance that the body produces when we are learning, when we take something from short-term memory and turn it into long-term memory. So that's really important. It also has shown to increase dopamine. And dopamine is the neurotransmitter for reward. So that's what we feel when we've done a good job. That's what we feel when we're accomplished. When we are succeeding, doing good, or when something tastes delicious or delightful. All the D words, I think of dopamine, Drugs are a huge dopamine boost too. It has D in it. So I think that's like a shorthand way to know. But anyhow, the dopamine also helps learning, because think about it. If we're releasing acetylcholine, which is like, ooh, we're learning, okay? And now dopamine, we're rewarded for learning. I mean, that's pretty cool to be able to take something that can induce that kind of, state within us. So with the increase of those releases, as well as being neuroprotective against Alzheimer's and dementia, it's just, it's starting to be more heavily studied because it does look so promising.
Nice. D for Dr. Jacquie and Deanne. Dopamine.
I love it.
Yay.
I love it.
All right. So in addition to alpha GPC, our formula also has 3 wonderful herbs in it, and that's the Bacopa monnieri, the ginkgo biloba, and the St. John's wort. So can you talk a little bit more about those ones and probably pronounce them correctly? I butchered them
So
all.
you are super close, but what I love about you is, first of all, you put your all into it. And second of
I
all, I
try.
think it's comforting. No, I think it's comforting because that's how I would, if I didn't go sit in classes and get lectured out of with these and have to study them, like that's how I would pronounce them. So I think it's awesome personally, because it's also helpful for me. When I'm writing things like this down or trying to give, patients lists of supplements, what they're probably seeing. But to me, it's just like writing aspirin or something, Anyway, okay. So all of those herbs, the thing that they have in common, which you kind of mentioned earlier or alluded to, are they're what are called nootropics. Nootropics. And what the heck does that mean? Well, they got the smart name or the nickname smart drugs, nootropics. And they're basically a class of substances that boost brain performance in different ways. So the brain is constantly doing a bunch of different things, whether it is taking information in, processing information, storing information, using our imagination to create new potential thoughts that aren't even real, aka anxiety sometimes. So, there's all these things constantly happening in the brain. And what nootropics do is they boost the positive brain performance and they lower what's called the noise, right? So, and there are all different types of herbs that fall under this class, but these are mushrooms and then ginkgo, bacopa. The ones you listed, Deanne, are all really fantastic for brain performance for different reasons, right? They each have a different, it's called mechanism of action or the way that they work, right? So for instance, ginkgo biloba. Say that 10 times fast, huh? So that increases ginkgo biloba. I couldn't do it. But that increases blood flow to all parts of the body, really. It's also cardioprotective, protects the heart, and helps with pretty much anything where blood flows. So if you think of an issue directly dependent on blood flow, the heart to work, the brain to work, genitals to work, right? All of these things that need blood to function and continue, they all require sufficient blood flow. And ginkgo is fantastic at that. The thing that makes it super unique to other herbs that also increase blood flow and saturation, the thing that's unique is it crosses what's called the blood-brain barrier, which not a lot of plants or drugs can do. And that's the way our brain protects itself from toxins. But ginkgo can. And I think that's pretty powerful. So all of these, the nootropics, because that's how they function, is they work on the brain, right? So it makes sense that they would be able to pass that barrier. So the second one for Bacopa monnieri sounds like a fancy famous person, but that helps with memory and thought production, like how quickly we connect thoughts, right, for logical or linear problem solving, for instance. So Bacopa is really special there. It's antioxidant to the brain, so it protects the brain, neuroprotective for the brain. Again, it just helps basically inhibit different enzymes and things that restrict blood flow and restrict the way that the neurons communicate, without getting too like boring and sciencey on you.
No, that's so good.
But the thing that's the coolest to me about Bacopa that stands out is it's called arborization. Arbor, like Arbor Day, tree day. Well, branches, right? So do you remember the insulation I said about the axon? Well, it's a dendrite head with branches, an axon tail, and then there's another dendrite into an axon, into a dendrite, into an axon. So we need the whole tree. We need the branches and we need the trunk, right? The trunk is that insulation part, but the branches part is what grabs the information in the game of telephone to send it to down the tail to the next guy waiting here. And so we can actually regrow the dendritic branches, like past, like into all age groups. Not just, during procreative years or in our 20s or something like that. Like anyone can increase dendritic branches or arborization while taking Bacopa. I don't know. I thought that was pretty impressive personally. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could literally just go look that up right now, Bacopa arborization. Anybody at home, if you want to open another window and check it out, you can see on slides There's like 8 fingers and then 20 and then 60, and it's just amazing. It's incredible. And then what was the third one? It was St. John's wort.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So St. John's wort is an antidepressant, and the way that works is it actually prevents cytokine storms. Cytokines are little substances we release when we're inflamed. When we eat stuff that makes us inflamed, when we have trauma to an area, different drugs and alcohol and substances can make our body release cytokines. And when we have what's called a cytokine storm, where we're like really inflamed in different parts of the body, it can affect our brain, causing depression. And so St. John's wort's awesome at preventing cytokines and neutralizing them, so we don't get that related storm, and so we don't get the secondary effect of depression. So it's very highly anti-inflammatory. It's super, super helpful with the, depression due to cytokines or inflammation, which there is a very, very big link there in relationship. So those are the herbs, their magical powers or mechanism of action, and, what they're studied for. I personally think, these and then the mushrooms we're going to talk about, I've used all of these herbs. I haven't used alpha GPC, so I want to be transparent about that. So I only know research, but I know from not only research, but from personal and clinical experience that these work, as well as mushrooms working, as well as adaptogens working to help with energy, which are, protect our adrenal glands, and they are pretty powerful. So anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Nice. We can move on to the next question. I just love herbs.
No, it's okay. But
magic. It's crazy.
I've taken it, so I've had the alpha GPC, and it's good. And then I was going to say I dropped mushrooms before our show. I just wanted to say that. That's something funny. I came to me when we were talking. I was like, I should just say I dropped mushrooms.
You're such a rebel. Medicinal mushrooms.
I'm on a mushroom trip right now, guys. No, I'm very not into that psychedelic stuff, but I'm definitely into the mushrooms that come in the supplement form. So we'll get into those next, but I do have a few more questions about our cognitive support. So when you take this, are you going to kind of wake up, have a high, and then crash? Is it like coffee, or is it a little bit different?
It doesn't work as the onset isn't as quick, and the half-life is longer, which means it's not as intense as a cup of coffee, and it lasts longer. So, coffee might spike and then crash, where when people's blood was tested and, they were measured, the alpha did have a jump, but then it kind of stayed level. The half-life was longer, right? So you don't get the crash. So both in the studies, to be honest with you, performance-wise, both athletically when doing jump tests, caffeine and alpha GPC both increased productivity there, or height. Also in mental acuity, when having to do complex subtraction, both increased speed and accuracy by a few seconds and a few percent. But the biggest difference was the after effect. There was no mood destabilization. There was no heart rate increase. There was no anxiety. There was no crash or need for a second dose of the alpha GPC group versus the caffeine group. So they both performed well in either substance, but you didn't get any of the negative effects of caffeine with alpha GPC in the studies that, what they've shown so far. When you take it, I mean, what's your experience with it?
I mean, I've taken it definitely when we've done the segments on it. I was about to pop one a second ago.
Okay, so let's see. We have 45?
We still have an hour, so yeah, let's see how.
Okay, let's see. This will be fun. Let's see what the onset is.
You're like, whoa, she just woke up.
Live clinic, and you can give us feedback, in however many minutes, if you're okay, I can notice.
I mean, I don't know if it'll be I think it's working, but it's one of those things it can never hurt if you think you're becoming more cognitively focused. So yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
It is slightly stimulatory. It is slightly so if you notice that little ooh, I don't know. I noticed that after the first few sips of coffee. So, to me, there's a palpable difference, but whatever. I'm just The science geek in me is
I'll
super
let you know.
curious to know. Okay.
I'll let you know. This will be fun. And everyone that's watching, you guys feel free to type into the chat any questions you might have. And if you guys have tried alpha, if you've tried it and you've tried this one and you have a result that you want to share, let me know. I'd love to hear that too. All right, so we're going to play a game of true or false, and we're actually breaking it up. Sometimes we do like all 10, but this time we're just going to do 3 at a time, and we'll do them throughout the show. So our first one, and you guys just type in true or false, take a guess, and I'll try to guess too. The first one is headaches are caused by our brain hurting. True or false? And I read this one and I thought, that doesn't sound right. So I'm going to say false.
You would be correct. Yeah. People always, I think, attribute it because that's where the pain is, right? But it's usually related to muscle tension in the head and neck, more times than not. Some sort of pinched, occluded, or inflamed blood vessel in the same area. Sometimes a pinched nerve, like if the neck is out or any bones are out and pinching, or muscles are tightened, all that stuff, because nerves transmit pain, and lack of blood flow makes stiffness and achiness. So, it's a combination usually of all of those things, being on the computer all day or tense shoulders or restricting blood flow to the brain. That's usually what causes a headache. Yeah.
Definitely. Dehydration for sure. All the things. All right, next one. What is the fastest and slowest speed of information to pass between neurons? And I feel like without Googling, I don't know. This wasn't even a true or false. So, true.
It's just a random, either you know it or you don't know it. Yeah. So, believe it or not, the brain neurons can communicate really quickly. It's like electrical transduction, right? So neurons on average are going to move around 200 to 250 miles an hour, but anywhere from 180 to 270, I think 270, 268 or something. When I looked it up specifically, because I knew it was in the 200s was the average, low 200s, but I wasn't sure what the min and max were. So that's huge, 180 to 270 just about. That's how fast our brain moves. That's crazy to me.
That's crazy. I know. That's so crazy. Abby guessed 240. So she was.
Ooh, great guess. That's kind of the perfect guess. Yeah.
Yes. What is that? Oh, yeah, you're reading some of the comments. Okay, so our next question. Humans retain neuroplasticity past age 25. True or false? I don't know much about neuroplasticity, so I'll say true.
True for okay, so humans retain neuroplasticity past age 25. So when I look at this question, neuroplasticity, plasticity means change or growth, neuro in the brain, right? So can we still make new connections, learn new things, and expand our gray matter, literally make more gray matter after the age of 25? Or retain it and continue after 25. So can humans retain neuroplasticity past age 25? The answer is true. You can continue. So until, believe it or not, about I think 10 or 20-ish years ago, like relatively recently, people thought that only kids' brains were malleable. And then like maybe around 20 to 25, you really stopped being able to basically your brain just neuroplasticity stops, new gray matter development, but it's actually very untrue. Recent research, the human brain is capable of change throughout every single decade of life, every year of life. So yeah, children are way more malleable and can learn much faster and adaptable because they do have stronger neuroplasticity potential, but it never just stops like we used to think in the world of science. That it just stopped, how our epiphyseal plates in our bones grow, stop, and we will never get taller than we are at 20 or something, 21. So it's not the same for neuroplasticity. They're showing the exact opposite, actually. So if we take care of our brain will take care of us.
Yes, learn some new skills in our mature ages. Yes, I love that. And it always makes me think of like little kids and language and how fast they can pick it up. And
Yes.
You know, I think adults can too. I think sometimes we are in our heads about it and we're resisting learning, whereas
Mm-hmm.
kids just are like, I'll just learn the words. Great, let's go.
Yeah, they don't have that self-deprecating voice of like, you're dumb, you can't do it. You know, they're
Yeah,
just sponges still. You know, they don't
they're
have that to
sponges.
contend with. Yeah, because some people do create that barrier for themselves that they're not capable. I agree with you. That paired with a little less neuroplasticity potential than a kid, and you know, yeah, I can definitely see why it's harder to learn newer things. But you know, neuroplasticity can actually come from learning the same thing a different way. So, Dan, do you drive the same exact way to and from your kids' school every time you go?
For their daycare, yes. Yeah. But I
Okay.
do sometimes on other things try to vary the path that I
Okay, so
take.
you understand where I'm going with this. So
Yes,
driving a
or
different
like brush your
path.
teeth with the other hand. Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's so habit
Exactly.
forming that you
Yeah.
just constantly like grab for it till it's almost too late and then you're like,
Exactly.
oh, I should have done it. Yeah.
Right. And so by like intentionally or consciously taking that different route home or using that different hand to brush your teeth, like you mentioned, that's a great one. Just doing anything differently, putting your shoes on differently, doing the different pant leg first, right? Just little things like that can actually force neuroplasticity, even if it's small. So that's why they say doing Sudoku and crossword puzzles and all of these mental games when your body's a little bit older and more fatigued, it really does help stimulate neuroplasticity and keep your mind less likely to develop things like dementia and Alzheimer's for sure. So that's all part of it. I love that you knew that.
I think we've talked about it too. So it
Yeah.
might not be that just I knew it, but yeah, I've definitely known that. And then the Sudoku and all that, and Wordle, that new game that's like Pokemon,
Yeah.
all that. So good.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I know a little bit about brain health for sure. So one of the things that if you guys are loving this, please hit that follow button. We really could use all the support we can get because then it helps us rank higher in Amazon and more people can hang out with us during our shows. So definitely hit the follow button. Plus, you can stay connected with us, which is great. And you can stay connected with us on social media. So we also are on like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all those different platforms. And it's at Middle World Herbs. So take a second, go follow us on those places as well. All right, well, let's move to the second supplement. This is our mushrooms one, Middle World mushrooms, and you too can drop some mushrooms. So, Dr. Jacquie, how do mushrooms help us maintain vitality? What are their notable properties?
Okay, so I kind of mentioned it before when we were talking about the other herbs, but these are a different type of, I guess, plant-like life that are nootropics. So again, they're just neuroprotective. They boost brain performance. They help the brain work more efficiently. And each, just like each herb before when we talked, does it in a slightly different way. Each mushroom does it in a slightly different way. And so, you know, not only are they nootropic though, they also are, you know, they're antioxidant. They help prevent things like cancer, right? They're anti-proliferative, so they prevent cancer cells from proliferating or multiplying. They can help stabilize blood sugar for diabetes. They can help cardioprotective and the cardiovascular system, so heart health. They can help the immune system because they're antimicrobial and antiviral. So mushrooms have a lot of notable actions. But when it comes to energy and vitality, you know, obviously when all systems are working great, we feel more energized and vital. But if I had to target a couple of systems, I would say the fact that they are so antioxidant, which is just amazing for helping free radicals, brain fog, things that cause fatigue, anti-inflammatory, which we just talked about inflammation, adding to stuff like depression and the mind not working as clearly. Um, and obviously the nootropic effect. So not only are they protecting the central nervous system from things like oxidative stress and inflammation, but they're also helping it function better. Nootropic, the brain performance, the way in which the neurons communicate, right? So it's protecting and physiologically helping support function. So, and each mushroom just has like a slightly different way it does it. So, chaga mushroom is um, is really great to stimulate the immune system and lower cytokines and inflammation. Then we have reishi. Reishi is known as like nature's Xanax because of how anxiolytic it is. Immune stimulation, antibacterial, anti-cancer, lowers blood pressure. It helps in so many different ways. It actually has been shown too to help stimulate nerve growth. So those are just some examples of how, all mushrooms have the same umbrella of actions, but the way in which they go about it, which I think is pretty cool, is super unique to the different species of mushroom.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we'll totally get into all of the details on the mushrooms, but I want you guys to see the capsules too. So if you guys can see that, it's kind of like this like light brown color with a little bit of whitish particles inside of it. So it has 5 mushrooms. It has the lion's mane, chaga, miyatake, shiitake, and reishi. So it has that really earthy color from it. And the whitish ones, I'm assuming, are the lion's mane. So I'm gonna put that right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna get 60 veggie capsules per bottle. And right now they're only $15.99 on Amazon. But you're also gonna take 20% off during this live. So that is just like a killer deal. Throw those in your cart. Make sure you check out during the live for that extra 20% off. So they are made in the US, GMP certified and thoroughly tested by third-party labs. And Middle World Herbs also does microbial testing, heavy metal testing, identity testing, and strength testing. So you can really know that what is on the label here is accurate and real, and it's everything promised is truly in that supplement, and nothing bad or no fillers are in there. So that's really important. All right, Dr. Jackie, question for you. So what is the history of the medicinal use of mushrooms?
Wow. This is pretty fascinating to me too, because mushrooms have been used historically just as long as herbs, believe it or not, in certain cultures. And I believe the oldest is 4,000 or 5,000 years ago is the oldest record of mushrooms being used. And they had it in a little, what they equated to a medicinal kit. And our ancestors have used them for thousands of years. Hippocrates, in I think it was the year 450 or the 400s sometime, he actually has in his notes, he is defining the uses of different mushrooms as anti-inflammatory, using them to heal and help cauterize and close off wounds. And that was so long ago. I mean, Egyptian hieroglyphics have mushrooms in them. Chinese herbs and mushroom use, mushrooms in food, just extensive, reishi specifically. Greece and Rome have used it. The Vikings actually used it. They took it for the few days before battle because they believed it gave them virality and strength. And in Greece and Rome, they drank them for tonics, health tonics, youth tonics, to stay bright. And then, of course, to allude to your joke a little bit, that's when psilocybin mushrooms were actually started being utilized in communities, was Greece and Rome. When in Rome. So I guess is the saying, but yeah, mushrooms have a long, long, long history of medicinal use. Way before modern science could define any of their actions or constituents, these were passed down. Even Buddhists and Taoists specifically took mushrooms and traveled intentionally all around their countries to share that there were things that could actually heal people, that the earth grew things. And so it was part of their culture to spread the awareness of medicinal mushrooms and what they could do as well. So mushrooms have touched almost every culture, as far as, like I said, 4,000 or 5,000 years back. It's been shown consistently. So yeah, they've been around longer than we have. That's for sure.
That's
way
for
longer
sure.
than
And
modern science, What was that?
Yeah, that's so cool. So what
Yeah.
about today then? What's like the current research saying about mushroom and medicinal use?
So right now, the most extensive studies are really on things like reishi, because just the ones that show up in history consistently, like reishi, chaga, lion's mane, maitake is another good one. These are all consistently studied, and they are just, those 4 in particular are shown consistently to be effective, the most effective medicinally at least, but improve memory, mood, focus, prevention of Alzheimer's, dementia, like we've talked about, concentration, learning, memory, just how the immune system works. All of that stuff has been shown. I mean, right now, if you were to look it up just on like a WebMD, I think it'll come back and it'll say there are more than 100 medicinal functions produced by mushrooms and fungi in general. 100. And the tops are just antioxidant, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, no big deal. And it keeps going. Anti-allergic, antibacterial, antiviral. They're just kind of medicine in a little plant, or in a little fruiting body, I guess you could call it, is more accurate. So it's pretty incredible.
Yes,
and
I feel like they're so underrated. Like you just don't hear.
They really
about
are.
mushrooms.
They really are.
They're under the ground. They're underrated. Poor little mushrooms. You and I are like on a comedy roll today. Like we
really are.
You didn't know this when you guys were watching the live. You were gonna get a free comedy show.
Who would have known?
Who would have known?
I
mean, next up, we're on the circuit. We're gonna go start doing comedy shows across the U.S.
Me and you. Yeah.
We just crack each other up, which is good. What?
I was like, do you want to learn something and laugh? Join us.
Join us. Yes. And then if we put James, our producer, if his mic was on, he always has little good lines too. So
I know. He's got the punny.
All right. We're gonna need you to tell a joke right now. But I won't be on the spot for that, but I will say we're going to do more true and false, but I feel like you just answered the first one. So maybe people didn't pick up on it. So the first question is, some mushrooms are plants, true or false? Maybe you didn't answer this. Some mushrooms are plants. So I know that they're fungi, but are some plants? Now I'm going to have to say true. Maybe false. I don't know.
I'm interested to see what people think. Did anybody try to guess?
Anyone? Let's give people a second. Are some mushrooms plants? True, ? False.
I'm super curious to know what people think of this one.
We're all pretty split. And then I cheated and said all right.
You cheated?
Which way is it? Well, I said true, and then I said maybe false, and then maybe true. I don't know. I didn't commit.
So if we're splitting hairs and being scientifically accurate, mushrooms are not plants. They are not in the family Plantae. It's Plantae, right? So that's a family. They're in the family of fungi. And funguses they then diagram with plants, right? They have a lot of similarities, but believe it or not, mushrooms have similarities to animals as well as plants. So they're their own kind of class, known as, of course, the kingdom fungi. So I said family, I believe, and I meant kingdom. It's not part of kingdom Plantae. It's part of kingdom fungi. And they're considered vegetables in the supermarket, which is fine because they're plant-like. They even depend on plants, grow between plants. They need plants for stabilization of their root system. So they're very, very closely linked to plants, but technically, scientifically, they are not.
It's so interesting because I never even think about it. And I always just, think of them as, a vegetable, a plant. So it's kind of crazy to think that they're not plants, but they're in their own little special classification. All right, question number 2. Chaga mushroom is mainly found on birch trees, true or false? And this one just seems so specific that I'm going to have to say true. I know nothing about chaga, but
I would guess the same thing because of the way the question was asked. You must be a good test taker. But yeah, the answer is true.
My SATs beg to differ.
Well, you were good at reading the question, right?
You
didn't let it trick you. You didn't get caught in that. Yeah, but you didn't get caught in the dance of like, ooh, it's so specific. It's true. Oh, but maybe they're doing that on purpose. It's false. But what if it's just?
That's true. That's true.
So it is true. No, it's true. So chaga is found on birch. It's, all throughout different countries, Europe, Asia, Canada, more like the northeastern part of the United States, and specifically the yellow and paper birch trees. That's their favorite.
Okay. So you might not be like a super mushroom expert. I know I'm very much like low level mushroom expert, but a lot of them are found underground and then some are found on trees. Is that right? Like there's different ways where they go.
So again, that's the part of where they interact with plants, right? So they grow on a plant trunk or at the base. Their root system is holding on to another plant's root system and or growing on them, on the branches, on the bark, underneath them. So if you've ever turned anything over and you see a family of mushrooms, because they like dark, kind of more damp, humid places. So they rely heavily on the plants around them to be able to grow for sure. But
and I've definitely seen like the big clusters on the trunk of a tree before too. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah, I always associate it with like, I guess the image on the bottle doesn't really show, but just like the ones you see like on grass that are sprouting out. That's like what my image of a mushroom is. I think that's most people. So
they come in so many
different ways. So interesting. Okay, and then my next question. I mean, look at all the trivia. You guys from watching that you're going to be able to go to a party now and be like, let me tell you about the life of the party. All right. So the next one is mushrooms are incredibly low in calories. True or false? And this one I'm going to go true. I feel like they're very low in calories, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
So they're very low on calories.
All right.
About 15 to 20 calories per cup. And 12 of those calories are from protein, 10 to 12. And then the other half is carbohydrates and very, very, very minuscule, like tiny amounts of fat, but like fraction of a fraction. No cholesterol, and they're really high in antioxidants, particularly selenium, vitamin C, and choline. So, which is awesome. Yeah.
Like a superfood right there. Awesome. Okay, what's your favorite way to eat mushrooms? What's like your go-to?
Oh man. Gosh, I eat them so many different ways. It's ridiculous. I like to saute them. I like to turn them into things. So I really like taking, because I don't eat meat. And so mushrooms are really great when I crave meat, because sometimes they can have that like meaty consistency to them. And so a portobello, like a grilled portobello or something like that, is fantastic. When you want kind of like a burger or a sandwich or to like bite into something. So I think also though, I really like it in ground up as ground meat in like a shepherd's pie or like a bolognese or something like that. So I don't know, I just really like them in everything. I mean, salads, I like them raw, I like them roasted, I like everything. What about you? Do you have a preference?
Nice. I am definitely a favorite of the portobello, so that would be my favorite, like in a sandwich or a burger. And then not that I have it all the time, but when it's like thinly sliced in like soup, I always like that, like like a miso kind of soup. It's so good. Yeah. And then I don't know, I'm not a huge mushroom person, but I'm getting there because I know that it's so good for you. After we did one of our shows, I like literally went and bought like a giant thing of mushrooms, and I was like, okay, now I gotta cook them all, and I just sauteed them, and they were good. But so like this is a lot of
okay,
mushrooms.
I'm curious because you're not alone, right? You're not alone, and so I want to know from your perspective, is it a texture thing? Is it the actual taste? Because I get a lot of kickback sometimes when I suggest that as a meal plan ingredient for some patients and clients. So since you're not like super
I think it's a texture thing for sure.
Okay.
And then, I mean, I do eat meat, but like a portobello sandwich, or portobello, I don't even know how you say it, but with the goat cheese is like phenomenal. Like it's so good.
So good.
I will say, like, if you just add like a little goat cheese or like some other ingredients, it doesn't seem as weird. I really like them. I do need to add more. Let's see, we're getting some things. So Eva's been replacing portobello with shiitake. They're more expensive, but she likes them for the medicinal value, so that's cool. Tastes good. Yeah. Freddie likes mushrooms cooked in coconut oil. There we go.
Mushrooms and coconut oil is so good.
I don't think I've done that. That sounds good. And then I like them in like pill form right here. Get all your fruiting bodies in one sitting. So
yeah, and that's important too. That's important mushrooms.
Too. Gwen hated mushrooms for about 2 years. Didn't like the texture, really? But the flavor was growing. So yeah, I get that. And I think I didn't grow up with it. My parents never really gave us mushrooms. So actually my dad like despises mushrooms, so that must be why. But I think they're great. So they're growing on me too, like a tree brand, like a birch tree.
Like a birch tree. I was just gonna say like a chaga mushroom on a birch tree.
I'm the chaga mushroom to the birch. All right, well, we have one more supplement. Oh, good. I love it. This info is helping people like our mushrooms more. So our final supplement is sleep support, and this one's so important too. So let's get into this one. This one just launched this month. So it is our brand new formula, and we're really proud of it here at Middle World Herbs. To drift off to sleep more easily, it's going to help you stay asleep and have the rejuvenating overnight rest. You just take 2 veggie capsules before bedtime. And this formula includes a whole bunch of great things. There's 2 milligrams of melatonin, L-theanine, philodendron root, I think I'm saying that one right, powder, and then it has mucuna seeds as well as GABA and 5-HTP. So you also might be wondering, what about magnesium? Because you hear that a lot about like helping you relax and reduce the effects of stress. And yes, there is magnesium in here too. You get 200 milligrams of magnesium per serving. So Dr. Jacquie, can you tell us a little more about the botanical extracts in this formula? What about L-theanine? What about that one?
Okay. L-theanine. Close.
Oh, I was so close. I even did a Google pronunciation on it. It's
really?
I did. It said, I swear it said 9, but maybe not. Theanine.
Well, hey, you know what? Tomato. Maybe theanine is how Google would pronounce it. I know it in my community as theanine. I'm totally open to
You're right. We'll go with you. You're right.
It's okay if I am. I don't mind. You learn something new every day. But yeah, it's an amino acid. So amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and amino acids are usually, in most cases, what our body needs to use to turn into a neurotransmitter eventually, or a hormone. And neurotransmitters is how the brain communicates with other parts of the brain, with the body. Hormones is another way. And so we need these substances, and we need, the ingredients to make these substances. And L-theanine is a super important one. It's really high in mushrooms and teas and things like that. But it actually helps settle the nervous system. It's what's known as inhibitory. It basically settles us down. So it helps with anxiety, it helps lower stress, and it actually can induce sleep because of the way that it works on the body and how it can lower the excitatory nature of the central nervous system. So you have 2 classes. I should back up a little. You have 2 classes of neurotransmitters: excitatory, inhibitory. One perks you up, gets you going, makes you think, make you learn, make you engage, get you excited. Too much makes you anxious, right? And then we have inhibitory. Helps you calm down, helps you rest, helps you sleep, helps you digest, use the restroom, all the things that we need our body to be relaxed to do. And our body is just constantly excitatory, inhibitory. And maybe we need excitatory, but we have a lot of inhibitory. So we want to do stuff, but we just are making too much inhibitory or not enough excitatory, or vice versa. We're too excited and we don't make enough inhibitory, so we're low here. We don't have enough of the shut-off switch, right? So L-theanine feeds the shut-off switch, essentially, which is why it's a really important amino acid. And there are a lot of super important ones. Tyrosine leads into dopamine. So anyway, we have, and then the whole adage of turkey on Thanksgiving making you sleepy, right? Yep. Well, tryptophan is in turkey. Tryptophan is an amino acid. That amino acid turns on serotonin, which leads into melatonin and makes you sleepy, right? So although we have two schools of thought for that on that side of the coin. But anyway, my point is basically science can't decide if turkey really makes you sleepy or not. Some say yes, some say no, some say maybe. But if it does, that would be the mechanism, right? And so we have those all throughout our body, amino acids turning into important substances we need to help with mood and sleep and our brain function and our body function. So L-theanine is one of the most important ones because of that.
Okay, sweet. Well, let's talk about the other one. So we have the philodendron. Okay, I'm going to say it right. Philodendron root powder. Maybe I said it right. Maybe I said it wrong.
Good job.
I did it. Okay,
I love it.
It's such a long word. And then the mucuna seeds. And what? You didn't cheer for that one. So.
Mucuna.
Okay.
Mucuna. I think of mucuna. So, yeah. Hakuna Matata,
right?
Mucuna.
From Lion King? Mucuna.
If you just take the M off Matata and put it on. Yeah, Mucuna Matata instead of Hakuna Matata.
That's so cute. I will remember that now. So what are those properties? How do those ones help us sleep?
So some of the chemicals or constituents, which is, what they might be called in philodendron, which is a bark, help things like osteoarthritis, stress, weight loss, reducing obesity. It can address skin issues like acne. There's a few different beliefs as to why, because again, every plant has a handful of constituents and different ones will do different things. And then the combination of a few will also have a third action, for example. But the thing that's unique about philodendron, the bark, is that it reduces inflammation significantly. And it also is high in berberine, which we've talked about berberine a bunch, right? Which helps lower blood sugar. It's cardioprotective or heart protective. Lower bad cholesterol or LDL cholesterol, protects the liver, which is a big detoxing organ. So philodendron has a lot of activities for a lot of different systems in the body. But it's usually because berberine is one of the main standing special ingredients in it. So that's philodendron. And then mucuna is also a nootropic, like we've talked about. So the mushrooms, the herbs, these all help just protect the brain, give the brain a boost, help it think faster, help with memory, helps with nervous disorders too, like excitatory, right? It will help balance out neurotransmitters that are potentially imbalanced in that way. It's also kind of known on the street as a potential aphrodisiac. So serotonin and parasympathetic or rest and digest, you have to have a certain amount of serotonin and a certain amount of your parasympathetic system turned on to feel aroused. So it helps with those systems in the body too, in terms of relaxation. So word on the street is it helps in that regard as well. So they all check a lot of boxes, but and they all have a lot of overlap too. But the whole nootropic and working on and passing the blood-brain barrier and being able to function in the brain, protecting it, making it work more efficiently, that's really what's going to help lead to better sleep too. Because if those pathways are working better, and we can shut it off when we need to shut it off, and we can make melatonin when we need to make melatonin, and we can be in parasympathetic or rest and digest when we need to, that's when we can sleep.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I haven't tried this one yet, but I definitely will have to try that. That's cool. Also, I was going to say, I think my concentration one, my cognitive support has kicked in because I'm feeling like I have excess energy, but it also could be because I've been sitting for so long, but I was like, all right.
Okay.
So I think the effects are starting. So I am feeling that, which is great. So it's working.
Awesome.
So at least for me, it's giving me like a dose of energy, which I was definitely talking before starting. So yeah, that's cool. Okay, well,
and you took it at 7. Oh, go ahead.
What?
I was just thinking of because it usually takes 10 to 15 minutes for most people to notice the effects of caffeine, up to 20. And I was just saying that the effects maybe take slightly more to turn on. You took it around 7:25 my time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I
maybe
remember the
7.
time too. Yeah, so it's
Okay, so it's been about 30 to 35
minutes.
minutes. Yeah, so it is
Yeah.
slightly longer, but you are noticing it being pretty, that is considered immediate onset, by the way, when it's within minutes
that's cool.
versus hours or days. So it's still
Yes.
pretty efficient, which is cool to know. Thanks for telling me. That's awesome.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, and it could be also, you know, I don't want to say cause and effect because, you know, I'm not a doctor, but it could also be that I've sat in this chair for a while. So I was like, just getting jittery.
So like
but
a
I
little
feel more
stir
energy.
crazy.
Yes, yes. But let's talk about the last two ones in here. So we have, I'm just going to say GABA, GABA, and then 5-HTP. So how do we say those and what do they do?
How do we say those and what do they do? Okay, so I just pronounce it GABA, to be honest with you, because gamma aminobutyric acid just sounds like a mouthful unnecessarily,
yes, that's a lot.
Which is what it stands for. But guess what it is? An amino acid. Why do we need it? Because it makes brain juice. All amino acids, or a lot of them, make, you know, substances in the brain, those neurotransmitters I was talking about. So it is a neurotransmitter. It is a chemical messenger, and it's inhibitory. Okay, so L-theanine is an inhibitory amino acid. GABA is also an inhibitory neurotransmitter. And so it blocks or inhibits different brain signals in the nervous system that can be too saturated or too active. So I guess I just get really nerdy because I love the science of it, but essentially it attaches to a protein in your brain, GABA receptor, and produces a very calming effect once that locking key mechanism happens. And so if you're feeling anxious, you might be GABA deficient. Stressed or fearful for no good reason. You just wake up, there's nothing really triggering you, no circumstantial things have happened recently, but you wake up with a sense of dread, anxiety. It could be a GABA thing. And so that's you know, why we make GABA, is to essentially help us feel that kind of safe, de-stressed, relaxed, priming us for sleep, priming us to kind of shut it down. And so that's why GABA is so powerful. It's a pretty popular supplement. A lot of people take it as anti-anxiety, you know, a natural route to anti-anxiety. You can also eat foods that are high in it. And so fermented foods are high in GABA. So kimchi, miso soup, tempeh, which are fermented soybeans. These are all great sources if you want to increase GABA and see if that helps with sleep and insomnia and anxiety. And then we have 5-HTP. So 5-HTP is a precursor to, again, neurotransmitter, amino acid, precursor to a neurotransmitter, and it just helps with depression. It can help with physical pain. It helps with insomnia. It just feeds the pathways that help make melatonin and help relax the body, relax the muscles, help with body pain. It's been shown to reduce migraine frequency, all of these things. And so 5-HTP, GABA, and L-theanine we can get from our diet, we can get from everyday substances, but we can also concentrate and harness if sleep or relaxation is really challenging for us. These are why we would, you know, utilize these amino acids or food as thy medicine in a supplement form. So again, it's very similar to nootropics, just to kind of make a relationship. A lot of similar umbrella actions, but each amino acid is used to make a neurotransmitter, right? So we see the patterns and the themes, but the way in which it works or what it produces or how, you know, how it works to achieve the same goal is unique to the neurotransmitter and the amino acid.
Okay, awesome. Does kombucha have GABA because it's fermented, or no, because it's not a food? It's like a SCOBY.
Because of the SCOBY and the nature of what it's coming from, as far as I know, it doesn't really produce a lot of GABA. But the cool thing about kombucha, because it is fermented, is, as you know, because you know, I think have a kegerator of it or a kombucha-rator.
We have a whole company.
Oh, that's okay. New information downloading. This is a big deal. I thought you just like, okay. That's awesome.
We'll
But
talk
what,
about
so
it.
what, yeah,
Well, I'll
seriously,
just
that's
briefly
amazing.
say. So my husband and I launched a kombucha company 8 years ago called Kombucha on Tap. It's in Southern California. So we're distributors of kegs of kombucha throughout SoCal.
Okay.
So we work with all the different brands.
That was the
And
relationship.
cold
So
brew
you
coffee.
get it. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I get it. I've been
So-
drinking kombucha for a long time. Lots of it.
Yeah. So you understand the benefits. And to me, because of the way the mind body connection works, and a lot of it has to do with the digestive tract, even though it's not, contains, it may not directly contain GABA or directly trigger GABA, something like kombucha, which is a fermented food.
Mm-hmm.
What it is doing is it is helping balance the probiotics in the gut. And as you know, I'm sure serotonin, which is your mood stabilizer, your appetite stabilizer, your immune cells, and certain nutrients necessary for energy production, like B12, all are produced by probiotics. So as you're supporting and feeding probiotics with kombucha, you're getting all of that mental and physical and mood stabilization support indirectly, not via GABA, but fermented food, similar action, different pathway, right? So, and that's that's why I think food is thy medicine, or natural substances to address, our biology, is so powerful, because we can get the same outcome different ways and different routes, and we can match our unique flavor of headache or gut disturbance or something to a specific route. If not kefir or kimchi, it's kombucha, right? Or probiotics. Or so it's I don't know, it's pretty powerful. I love that you do that with kombucha, by the way. That's exactly what I'm talking about when I say food is medicine. You just have it right there on tap in the kitchen, just hanging out.
Oh yeah,
that's so cool.
It is. I mean, and our toddlers, like, we always watered theirs down. I mean, they've been drinking it since they were little. I mean, I drink it all through my pregnancy, like, whatever. It's non-alcoholic. But my 4-year-old now has learned to put her step stool by the kegerator. She walks up, she pours her own using the tap and stops it. And so now she's not even watering it down, which I still try to grab the cup and put some water in just for the sugar content. But it's crazy. Like, my little ones are pouring their own taps, and I was thinking, my gosh, when they're like in high school and they're like at parties and people are like have kegs and stuff and it's a big deal, I'm like, we've been doing this since we were like 2. Let me show you how to change it. But hopefully they're just
you do this with my eyes closed, hands tied behind my back. Yeah,
I know. I'm like, what? These kids. But you know what? I know they have good, healthy guts. So it's good.
It's true.
Yeah,
no, it's true.
If you lived closer, I'd hook you up, but you're on the other end of the country. We don't distribute that.
I know.
So anyways, well, let's get back to our fun stuff. So one thing that I wanted to tell you guys was, if you didn't notice, we have these little charms on each of the bottles, and these are called whispers. And every single supplement is going to come with a different whisper. These have a really cool backstory behind them. So each one has like a mantra, an affirmation, positive message. This one says the mind and body aren't separate. Wellness of one influences the other. And the way these came about was the founder was on a trip, and she was in Bergama, Turkey. She went to the site of the Asclepian Temple, and it's the ancient ruins still there. And there's a tunnel there that you can walk through. And you can see the light up at the top. Well, the healers would be at the top whispering as patients slowly walked through this tunnel, and they would tell them like words of affirmation and positive mantras and inspiring messages, because they realized that physical healing and emotional healing are totally connected. So they were really advanced doing that. And that was just something that after the founder visited, she said, hey, you know what? Supplements are really going after the physical aspects of our body, but no one's talking about the emotional side of healing. So that's why this cool whisper was added. And each of these charms are like handmade. They're amazing. And you can keep them and collect them afterwards too. So I love them. They're just such a like neat part of the supplements that we have. And then as far as like emotional healing goes, you know, feelings of grief and worry and anger and stress can really trigger actual things in our physical body. So since we're talking about vitality today and sleep, Dr. Jacquie, what's the connection of our emotions, like stress and anxiety, with the ability to stay like strong and active and energetic? And we talked about this a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah, it It has a lot to do with it. So when we're talking about the connection our emotions have, I mean, if we have a thought, it doesn't even have to be reality. It can be an imaginary thought. And, a lot of people do the what if. It's anxiety inducing, right? So we can utilize something like a thought that's not even real to release an actual neurochemical cocktail of substances that will convince our body that the thought is real. And so we're having a physiological response, a literal, actual, objective response to something that is not real, that is fabricated. And what ends up happening is, and that's an important hardwired system there, because our body wants to protect us and our mind perceives things and relays the messages to the body. And then the body knows, do I run and hide? Do I stand and fight? Do I freeze and act like I'm invisible? And so we have a lot of those mechanisms kind of hardwired in. But the problem is we're no longer limbic animals. We're not running on our limbic system of survival, right? We have shelter, we have technology, we have comforts, we have, all of these things. And so now what Paleolithic times, our nervous system, our limbic kind of animal brain, running from a tiger is a deadline at work, or a fight with a significant other, or the passing of someone in our life, or getting cut off in traffic. Our body is responding, right, to our perceived threats, thinking that our life is actually at stake. And when we do that all day, every day, we wake up like that because we worry about all the things we have to do to get the house ready, or ourselves ready, or the tasks once we get to work, or what we're doing at work, or the problems to solve at work, or any of those things that are happening on a regular basis, day to day. Our body functions at that level, and we have to go from fight or flight into rest and digest. We have to switch tracks of the nervous system, right? We kind of mentioned it before. The nervous system's like a railroad track. It can only take one route at a time, but it can switch tracks. So are you going to switch to sympathetic and stay there, or are you going to turn into parasympathetic? And if you stay on sympathetic, you have too many excitatory neurotransmitters happening, right? And you're hamster wheeling in your mind, and your body can't physically rest. Even though you're laying in bed and you are physically resting for all intents and purposes, your body doesn't think you are, because your mind is saying otherwise. There's dissonance. The two aren't in agreement. And so the nervous system is not calm. It's not restful. It's not soothed. It's not able to shift that track, if you will, because of that dissonance. So, I mean, you can be laying there clenching your jaw, like tightening your shoulders, furrowing your brow, your hands clenched. Your body is physically responding to what your mind is doing, right? So where your emotional state is, or the thoughts that you choose to focus on, will continually create that biological response. So if you're having ruminating thoughts where you think the same thing 30 times a day, you're getting the little cocktail of cortisol, the stress hormone, adrenaline, the fear hormone, constantly in your bloodstream. And that could be really difficult to come down from. A lot of times we think we should be able to turn it off. Like, you clock out, you leave work, or you're done with your project, but people don't create that transitional time to burn off the adrenaline, burn off the cortisol, go exercise, work out, journal, cry, move, dance, do something to signal to the body, that fear state that I convinced you of for so long, because that's just how the body operates. We need to metabolize all that stuff floating around, and then we can move on to the next stage. Rest, sleep, dinner at home, relaxing with family, hopefully something along those lines. And so we don't create that transition state. We don't change tracks. Our body stays in sympathetic fight or flight. And then we lay down and we expect our body and our mind to just be sleeping in 10 minutes. And then we get angry at ourselves or frustrated, and we look at the clock, when it's because we didn't create that time and space for our body to shut down, right? We didn't allow the emotional, mental stuff that is affecting our physical body to be processed. in the form of like journaling, like I said, crying, dancing, working out, you know, whatever your method is. And so they're again, we've talked about this a ton, but they're inherently linked, the mind-body connection. And in regards to sleep and cognition, it's stress in that overexcited nervous system. Your body can only maintain for so long before it either crashes, and then all you can do is live in parasympathetic, rest and digest and sleep and eat, right? You hibernate because you just are crashed out, or you just can't reach that place because you're still just chronically in excitatory stress state. And so I always say a good rule of thumb, if you can use your imagination for bad to potentially entertain the what ifs of all the reasons why something could go wrong, and your body's going to have that physical response of stress. If you can do the exact opposite and use your imagination for good and picture the ideal outcome of that talk you need to have with that person, or that ideal outcome of that project that you're working on, or that business you're working to build, or that person you're getting to know, if you can focus on that ideal, guess what will happen? Your body will naturally shift to a serotonin, an oxytocin, a dopamine, an endorphin release. You will release feel-good hormones that allow for mood stabilization, for excitement, for reward, for rest, for relaxation, increasing appetite and hunger, and all of these things that, you know, create balance, because we're kind of here in a lot of ways. So if we can just shift tracks of controlling our thoughts, watching our thoughts, and if you are the type of person like I used to be, that what if a lot, instead of what if bad, what if for the good, and your biology will follow you. That is how strong the mind-body connection is. And I guarantee you, if you work on that for the next week, you will be sleeping like a baby within a few weeks to a month's time.
That's awesome. Oh, that's such good, like, a great suggestion. I love that. I'll have to try that. All right, so let's do some true or false before we round out our show. We have our first question being, humans are the only mammals that willingly delay sleep. True or false? Now, immediately I was like, true, but then I reread it and it said only. And then my scientific brain was like, ooh, only? I don't know. Maybe there's one out there. So let's see what people think. I'm going to have to say that word only makes me think false. Jury's out.
What do other people think? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, we got a combo right now. So if you guys have, put in your answers. Are we the only mammals that will willingly delay sleep? All right, go for it. What's our answer? The answer is true. Yeah. True. Yeah, okay. We're the only mammals. Every mammal, when it's time to sleep, it has a natural circadian rhythm. When it's sleep-wake cycles, it's sleep cycles, its reproductive cycles, they're very instinctual. They don't really deny themselves their nature the way that we do. We use our conscious mind, our frontal cortex, to overcome our limbic brain and say, no, you're not hungry now, finish this report. No, you're not sleepy now, finish reading one more chapter. You know, do that last load of laundry, right? You're not thirsty, you don't need water, because then you'll have to pee later, and we can't move from this seat for 2 hours, so we're not gonna, whatever it is. We have prefrontal cortex's self-awareness consciousness. And so it's a great, great tool, but sometimes we use it to bully ourselves out of what we naturally need. And in a lot of cases, that is sleep. Because guess what? Watching 8 Netflix shows in a row, head to tail, is more important than 4 extra hours of sleep to some people. So that's totally what I was thinking. I was like, mice wouldn't sit there and watch, you know, another episode. They wouldn't care, but we are. I'm like, yes, I'll watch it. And then you'll be like, one more. And then it cliffhangs and you're like, okay, one more. Plus the way it just, it's like 5 seconds. And you're in the next one. Exactly. Yeah, but guess what? All right, if your dog was watching with you and they were tired, would they stay up because they couldn't wait to see what happened? No, they'd go to sleep right next to you, right? So yeah, we're the only mammals who can consciously delay sleep. Mm-hmm. That's so funny. Yeah, even at a young age, my littlest one, oh gosh, getting her to bed every night. It's like FOMO. She doesn't want to miss out on the party. Dude, delay. All right, so next question. This is an interesting one. Remembering your dreams after waking means you had a good night's rest. True or false? I'm going to say false. But
you're right. It's false.
It's false.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was going to give it a little bit more suspense and see what people wrote, but I know, like, I think it's getting to the tail end, so I want to make sure there's enough time for everything. But yeah, the answer is false.
People were saying false as well, so they all agree.
Okay, good. So they knew. So just because you dream and remember dreams doesn't mean that you had a great night's sleep. So the measure of a great night's sleep is to go through all of the necessary stages of sleep. And that is recorded to take, depending on the person, anywhere from like 7 to 9 hours, which is why they say that's how much sleep we should be getting. Some people are adamant that they need more or less. That is fine if that's your thing. We just find, on average, for most people, that's about how much sleep we need is the 7 to 9 hour window. And that's because of the wave of sleep, right? And REM sleep, rapid eye movement, is where dreams happen. And the REM sleep can be a slightly shallower sleep than super deep sleep. So sometimes we'll be having dreams in REM sleep, and then we'll be able to wake up. And wake up in the morning. Alarm systems pull us out of it, right? Our alarm clocks or whatnot, kids, life, family. And so that's why there's sometimes when you wake up, they're so vivid. And other times you're just like, oh, I didn't dream at all. Or you can kind of barely remember, is when you woke up in your sleep cycle. So if you woke up mid-REM, you're more likely to remember the dreams that you were just having. But it doesn't always mean a good night's sleep, because if you woke yourself up, that was the first aspect of REM, because you had really shallow sleep all night. You finally dip into REM and dream, and then your alarm clock pulls you out of it. No, you'll still be cranky, because you didn't get that nice restorative deep sleep.
All right, but let's do 2 little rapid fire ones, and then 2 questions, true or false. Does it take 10 to 15 minutes to typically fall asleep? True or false? I'm going to go true. You should take about 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's about it. For, to relax the mind, get the body comfortable. If it takes substantially longer, then something, needs to be addressed. But usually 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, that's the sweet spot.
Okay, and the next one's our last one. Sleeping on your left side aids in digestion. True or false? I have heard this, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
The answer is true. Yeah.
True.
So it's not going to aid in digestion per se. Like, it's not going to add to physiologically what's happening in the stomach. But what's going to happen is the way that we're built is our fundus, or like the largest aspect of our stomach, curves to the left, right? And so if we've eaten dinner that night and we're still, because stomach digestion takes anywhere from 2 to 4 hours before it can make it into the small intestine. So if you had a late dinner, you're laying down within that 2 to 4 hours and you're still doing the gastric turning. Well, it's called the fundus part of the stomach that's on the left. If you lay on your right side, that fundus is more likely to kind of fall back into and go up into the esophagus, causing acid reflux. But if you lay on your left side, the food and the gastric churning happens in that little fundus aspect. And so it's not going to kick up into the esophagus and cause acid reflux, any kind of distension, pain, or bloating. Laying on the left side just helps contain gastric churning and less likely to just acid reflux primarily, but indigestion and bloating secondarily. So it does help. Okay. If you have acid reflux and you lay on your right, switch sides. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good tip. Okay, what are some hacks for having a good night's sleep?
Ooh, sleep hygiene. Number 1 hack ever, and that kind of encapsulates a handful of other hacks, but priming your body. Everybody has a morning routine, whether you recognize it or not, whether you hit snooze 12 times and then jump out of bed on an adrenaline cortisol high and do everything in 7 minutes and you're out the door, and that's historically how you roll. Or if you are very, you have a very specific schedule and you wake up at 6 and you eat by 6:30 and you shower by 7 and you exercise, and everything in between. Everybody's got their little process, right? And that just happened over time. You kind of trained yourself. You want to brush your teeth right when you wake up, or wash your face to feel more awake, or shower first, or maybe it's important to drink water or have coffee or whatever. You found your flow. And what we forget is that's priming our body and saying to the body, hey, the day's starting. This is in preparation to, for the whole day of activities, of work, to think, interactions. So it's like you are signaling to your body without having to be so intentional about like, hey, body, we're getting ready for the day. It just knows it and it's natural. But very rarely do we have a night routine outside of maybe washing our face and brushing our teeth or shower in pajamas. But there's no priming, right? For in a lot of cases, most people, it's, hey, let's turn something on and kind of fall asleep with the screen on, or the lights are on in every room in the house. We're still telling our brain to not produce melatonin. The body doesn't want to produce melatonin when there's light out. That's how it knows to be awake and make cortisol the stress hormone, because we need a little cortisol to keep us up and problem solving. It's when it gets too high that we get that agitated, stressed feeling. So if we have all the lights on in every room, if we're staring at a screen of light to fall asleep to, these are all cross wiring to our brain. It's like, wait, we're really sleepy because we had a really long day and woke up really early and we want to sleep, but there's so much light. So we have to stay awake. We have to think, we have to do stuff. I'm so tired though, but no, we got to stay awake. And you get that conflicted kind of like tiredy, floaty feeling, and you fall asleep on the couch, or, it's just the quality isn't high, right? Because we don't have any sleep routine. We don't prime the body. It's called sleep hygiene. Number 1, drink a glass of water within an hour before bed. Number 2, all screens and lights completely off 1 hour before bed. Ideally dimmed at 2 hours before bed and off by 1 hour. I'm talking no screens. We're not looking at our phone, iPad, or TV before bed. Number 3 is do something that is going to slow the body down and signal to it it's time for rest, whether that is light stretching, a cup of tea, a shower, a bath, a book, a journal, something that you can anchor into your day that when you do it, right, it's priming the body for sleep. A lot of people, if you have anxiety or insomnia, journaling is helpful. You get all your worries out on paper so you don't take them to bed. If you have restless leg syndrome, or you physically get uncomfortable in bed and kind of toss and turn, stretching would be really helpful for you before bed. Stretching, rolling out your sore muscles, really allowing, joints to expand so that you can be comfortable in bed all night. If you wake up with dry mouth and dry eyes and really dehydrated, having that glass of water before bed is super helpful in waking up hydrated. So we can make our morning better, and we can make the likelihood of falling asleep easier and more efficient if we can prime the body. So tips and tricks, sleep hygiene all the way. Find the 3 to 4 things that work for you. 1 to 2 hours before you want to be in bed, start doing them. And after a couple weeks, your body will start, oh, guess what? The lights are off. It's time. And you'll notice your melatonin shift will occur and your body will be primed for sleep. And
those are good.
Balanced sleep is huge. Yeah. I mean,
I love that.
The body just knows what we tell it.
I've always heard, limit your intake of water at night because you don't want to be getting up all night. But I think I'm going to start drinking more before I go to bed, because I do wake up with really dry eyes after having LASIK. I know that's like normal, but maybe I can make that reversed with just staying super hydrated. So
yeah. Now cool. I will tell you, if it's a new thing for you specifically, and anybody out there, you're going to pee the first 3 or 4 nights because your body's not used to getting water that close to bed. So just don't get too frustrated if you're like, oh, this is making me wake up and pee. But what your body ends up recognizing over time is maybe you'll wake up 2 hours into sleep, then 4, then 6, then you'll get the whole 8 or 9 hours through the night before you get up to use the restroom. So it takes a little priming, right, for your body to transition and adjust, but you will eventually get there after usually about a week.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's a good tip. And after having 2 kids, I don't know, you're up every 3 hours in the last trimester, so I know what that's like to get up a lot. But yeah, no, that's such good tips. I love that. Well, that's all the time we have. So thank you for all this incredible information. We did cognitive, we did mushrooms, we did sleep. We put a lot into this. Hopefully you guys feel like you are more equipped to have a real energetic vitality. You got your sleep tips going on. Make sure you grab these, put it in your cart, get that 20% off, click the banner to get that 20% off, and hit checkout. And Dr. Jacquie, if you want to say goodbye, go for it.
I just want to thank everybody who always takes the time to show up to these, not just the lives, but watch the playback. I appreciate you. I hope you learned something, and I hope you try something that can help improve, any status or issue that you might be struggling with right now. So thank you so much. And hopefully we'll see you in future shows, same time, same place next week.
Same time, same place, Fridays at 4. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Hear the whispers from within, balance to restore, ailings to relieve. Feel the nature keeping us, nature healing us, flowers, leaves, and roots within. Hear the mind calming you, soothing you, love and kindness inside out. Let the herbs from middle world heal. Welcome wellness, welcome wellness. It's revealed herbs, middle world herb.